Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grab Your Keys. I am very happy to have a good friend of mine, a top producer at Centennial Lending Group and Success Mortgage Partners here. He has tremendously improved his business over the last 10 years, and everything that he will say, you should take golden nuggets from. So if you're listening and you want to share with one of your friends, definitely share the link. But John Fleig is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, John.
It's great to be here, Sue. Thanks.
You have been in the mortgage business for a long time, since out of school. How did you get into the mortgage business?
Well, I tell this funny story a lot. It was early 90s, and I was just coming out of college, and I was studying to take my MCATs to get into med school. At that point, my father was involved in the mortgage industry, and they were opening up a branch for Fleig Mortgage in the Pennsylvania area. And he said, hey, why don't you give the mortgage industry a shot? And if it doesn't work out, you can go back to med school and, work off that $500,000 in student loans that you'll probably have after that point.
Right.
So I gave it a shot, and this is what I've been doing ever since. It's been 34 years. So I guess in a nutshell, I got my job the old fashioned way. My dad gave it to me.
And through a lot of hard work, and, you definitely have earned your medical license in mortgage. You know a lot about everything. You help people day in and day out find and finance their home, the home of their dreams. What do you feel the 3 keys to your success has been?
There's a lot of things we do on a daily basis, but if I want to narrow it down to 3 things, probably the most important to what I do every single day is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just consistency in, what I do every hour or every minute, but it's consistency on how I handle my day as soon as I get into the office till I leave the office.
Right.
How I handle a file with our clients, with our inside staff, with our underwriters, our closers. So at the end of the day, when I have a referral partner give me a loan, they can expect the same thing to happen on every single file.
Right.
The communication to be the same on every single file. So that consistency really gives me reliability to my referral partners. And I think that's so important.
Right. Because they know, like, and trust you. Right. The consistency, they know what they know what they get when they use John.
Right. Absolutely. And they know when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it.
Right.
And that's very, very important in this industry. I'll say the second thing is probably maybe just in any industry, the ability to adapt.
Right.
I'm very fortunate to work with you and our staff and with CLG, who has been probably the most mobile company I have ever worked for. I mean, I ran my own company for a while. I worked for big box lenders. And with CLG and SMP, I was able to get the big box support, but the mobility of a smaller company. So we deal with, changes in our marketplace, which are beyond our control. But we also deal with probably on a regular or weekly basis, changes in our industry with rules and regulations and guidelines. Right. So we are really at an advantage when we can move quickly to those changes. So I think that's very important as a loan originator and anybody in the mortgage banking industry. You have to have that ability to adapt and change very quickly.
Yeah, you're right. And that's for every industry.
Right. But I think really, especially for our industries, because I've said that we're probably the most secondly heavily regulated industry in America, right? Maybe you have, food and drug is the first, right. Then you have our industry, and they make changes so often that we really have to keep up with those changes, and it impacts the way we do business and how we do business every single day. The last one, you said 3, right?
3. I said 3.
I'm a big proponent of knowing your guidelines.
Right.
I think it's really important as a loan officer to know the changes that happen within loan structuring and loan guidelines, because that's what we're supposed to know. And, we are in still a manufacturing type business where it's still, you know, everybody has their part, and still a lot of human aspect, thankfully, in this industry. So we're not perfect. So it's okay when you challenge a guideline or you don't think a decision is right, but back that up with knowledge and back that up with knowing those guidelines. So those are the three things that are very important to me.
So consistency, adaptability, knowing your guidelines, all really important for any business. How did you take your business using those three tools to the next level when you decided that, you know, you wanted to go from being mediocre to tremendous?
Right. I think it was the realization is, you know, I was in the industry for quite some time, and it's easy to get caught in a little bit of a rut and kind of running in place. And that's what I was doing for a couple of years. You know, we had a downturn. I've been in the industry, and we ran through 2008, kind of took the wind out of a lot of our sales. And I was running in place. And I was getting the business in, but I didn't really want to expand my business. And one of the things was a meeting with one of the loan officers that we met with later that really kind of prompted me. You know, Andy Dietrich, who works for us. We had to sit down, and he's like, you know what? There's loan originators, right? And there's loan officers. He's like, I want to be more of an originator.
Right.
That really struck a chord with me. I told you that many times, is that I was more of like a book smart loan officer. I knew the guidelines and everything, but I wasn't much out on the street trying to bring business through the door. So that was the one change that I needed to make, is to become more of a loan originator and not a loan officer. And that was a key piece that was really lacking in my business. So I took what he said to heart, and I tell him that every time I tell him. I mean, he really, that comment kind of contributed to my change in attitude on what I did. So my day is now talking to as many people that I possibly can about mortgages, and developing deeper relationships with people that I never really did before.
Right. And having that network of other originators that you can talk to, since we were talking to, you know, Andy, having that constant communication with others, how do you feel that improves your business?
I think knowledge and the way people do things is very, very important to an individual. I was just at a meeting, a conference, and you were there also. And we had so much success sitting in that room, and we all kind of got to the same place, but we all got there differently. Right? So everybody's success story is an individual story. And there's a lot of people that do things better than I do. So I look at what successful loan officers do. And if it's missing in my process, I will borrow that. I have no shame in taking something that is somebody else's that is successful and kind of tweaking it to be my own.
Right.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that tweaking is what makes it special. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make that wheel run in your own way. I mean, Honda and Porsche have the same tires. They just have them run differently at times. So it's just tweaking how you have, how you have your systems and your processes and your techniques, which drives you.
Right. And I agree with you, because I talk to our originators very often. And, I mean, we'll start texting each other early in the morning. Have you seen this? Or what do you think about this? And that's great when you're in the office and you have that collaborative, mentality. But I'll tell you what, I do take the time to talk to my competitors also and see what they're doing. I've been in this area for quite some time. So my competitors have been my competitors, and sometimes not even my competitors anymore. I mean, sometimes we'll go out for a drink or have dinner just to talk about the marketplace and see what's working for them or myself. So I think it's important to see what your competitors are doing and see if it's better than yours. And I really appreciate that. I have that ability since I've been out here for so long.
Right. And that also helps you with, sometimes your competitors can do deals and they ask you if you can do it, and you help them out on, those problem files.
Yes. We have gotten deals from other lenders, my competitors. Some of them are even friends, that can't get a deal done. But I'll tell you what, it's easy to structure a file when you know exactly what not to do.
Well, it is easy to do when you know what not to do. How important are metrics and data to your business?
It's very, very important because our business is really just numbers. And I always found myself to be a numbers guy. I know exactly what my conversion rate is. We talk about this. Conversion rate is where I could talk to 10 people and maybe one of them turns into a deal. I know what my conversion rate is. So I know how many people I have to talk to a day, how many funnel down to be a pre-qualification, how many pre-qualifications actually turn into a deal. So I know those numbers.
Right, and if you reverse engineer those numbers.
Right. So I know what those numbers are. I know what my conversion rate is. One of my goals this year, which I'm still working towards, is to improve my conversion rate, because one thing that we can't make more of is time, right? So I'm just trying to use my time more wisely. And it has shown. My conversion rate from talking to a client to application was about maybe 26%. And I've improved that to about 50%, just having more in-depth conversations with people.
How do you manage your lead management? How do you get the leads? How do you manage the leads? How do you know if someone's going to convert or not convert?
So one of the changes I didn't make is identifying somebody who is a tire kicker and who's an actual home buyer.
Right.
And you could do that with a 5-minute conversation when you talk about their goals, where they're at with the process, if they have all their documents ready. Once I identify that, I really concentrate on the ones that we know are going to buy a house. And then I really have probably an expanding conversation up to 30 minutes, maybe even more than 30 minutes to talk to them. And I prefer face-to-face. We've talked about this. Whether, I do consider Zoom right now face-to-face, because we have families with kids and they can't really come into the office.
Right.
But I prefer that face-to-face. I think it's so important. I think what we are seeing now is a full circle in this industry where convenience is great, right? But it's very impersonal. I'm starting to see a lot of home buyers really need to sit down and speak with somebody face to face and ask those important questions. And we should, as mortgage originators, give them that face time, because they're making the most important financial decision in their life, and they want somebody to talk to. And I think that has really made a change in my conversion rate this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. How important do you think professional and personal development is to your growth?
I lean more towards professional development.
Right.
I still struggle with that balance of, personal and professional. I think it all kind of blends together for me sometimes. But I do know, as my professional development grows and my business grows, I'm needed a little bit less on the professional end. Right. And it lends me more time on the personal. I love
that. I agree with that. Because you're a good dad too. So Absolutely. Good mortgage person, good dad. So who do you admire, John?
That was a good question that I saw, and I really thought about that, and I couldn't pick out anybody. So I couldn't really pick out who I admire, but I can tell you what I admire.
Great. What do you admire?
So the thing is I really admire people who are successful in any industry and never give up themselves or their individuality. Like they can still be who they are and be successful. And I really admire people like that. Like they don't change because of their business.
Right. They are who they are. Right. They're authentic.
So I really admire that in people.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you were going to be another profession, what would you be?
I think one of my skill sets is problem solving. I really enjoy that. And it really lended itself to mortgage banking. So I really like taking things and kind of breaking it down to the individual pieces and then putting it back together. So I think I would be in medicine, but not really a physician, probably more in research.
Right.
Or I'd probably be an auto mechanic. Either one of those two.
Breaking things and putting it back together. Yeah. So it'll go from sublime to ridiculous on that one. So what's in the future for John Fleig?
Professionally, I think what I'm going to do is concentrate on some of the younger loan officers, more new loan officers in our office right now, and try to help them develop business. I think you and I do that on really a daily basis with the LOs. Maybe just kind of get out there with them. And I think a lot of the younger LOs, because they're going to be a little bit younger, they have a different mode of doing things, Sue, that we as more experienced loan officers, maybe just me being older, do things, right? I think people need to hear your voice and see your face. Texting and email are convenient, but very impersonal. I think we are in a relationship business, which we know, and you can't develop that without talking to people face to face. And that can be daunting. That can really be daunting for some people.
Yeah, I think that what some people don't realize is, you and I had learned mortgage by listening to other mortgage people while we were in a big office.
Right.
I mean, you had the luxury of having your dad, and he had a rap, and you picked up from your rap from his rap what you liked and what you didn't like, and then you learned how to morph it into being your own. That's how I did it. And I think in the mortgage industry, with so many people working remote, they don't get that one-on-one or in that group setting, hearing how someone speaks on the telephone to their clients or on a Zoom meeting to their clients. It really lends the next generation of originators to a little bit of a disadvantage unless the older generation, which I can't even believe we're saying the older generation, and that's us, really raises them up and says, look, come into the office, hear how I talk, sit with me for a day, shadow me for a week. And, let's get you to get to a level so that you can go to the next level and the next level. I think that isn't a benefit to them because they've been remote.
I agree with you on that as far as being in the field salesperson aspect, but also it's great for them to sit with you and I when things don't quite work out.
Right.
And you have to look into a file and know how to pull it apart and concentrate on certain things, on how to fix those issues. And they don't get that from being not in the office and around us also. I really think it's important to be in it, to learn. Okay. And you only can do that by being in the office or being with a loan officer on appointments. And that's an aspect I think that we've really, really lost in this industry. Knowing stuff that you read is great, but there's nothing that trumps experience at all.
For sure. And I've heard you say this before, and it just tickled my mind a little bit. Like, you always have plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah.
Well, if the loan doesn't work, especially for difficult loans, well, if the loan doesn't work this way, then I can take it this way. If the loan doesn't work this way, I can take it that way. I just had a conversation with two agents. Well, if you don't want to do a termite on this, state file, I'll take it another way. It's up to both of you. How often do you have those plans in your head about if A doesn't work, you're going to go to B. If B doesn't work, you're going to go to C?
More than I would like.
Right.
But I think, the problem solving aspect, you really have to be involved with that. I always try to have an option for our buyers if something doesn't work out. We really look at three things, right? Credit, income, and assets. That's what it breaks down to. And there's things that you could do for either one of those three to make it acceptable per our guidelines. I give options. If you don't, here's the route that I can lay out the route, but they're going to pick the path, right? And I always have an option. I think my close rate with our office is pretty high. It's pretty significant, and we don't miss a beat on purchases. We don't, because we always give an option. And I think it's really important. One thing that we need to teach is deliver information fast, deliver news fast, whether it's good or bad, right? I will, if I have negative information on a file, I'll be on that phone in 30 seconds after I get that info. I rather have 5 people helping me come up with a solution than me just sitting there for 3 hours trying to figure out when I'm going to call somebody. So I'm very quick to deliver information and news. More heads working on a problem is just better than me trying to come up with a solution.
For sure. You have a large realtor base. What would you say the number one thing a realtor wants from their lender?
Do what you say you're going to do. That's it.
That's all.
That's it. If you say a loan can go, then the loan should go. And that's it. A fast no. Also, they really appreciate that. If you can't get it done, it's okay to say no. At my age, you know what I appreciate now? I can say no.
Yeah.
And don't give an explanation. But I think that I think, just delivering on any promises you ever make. That's all.
Right.
Don't promise what you can't deliver ever.
Yeah, I love that. John, 3 keys: consistency, adaptability, and know your guidelines, plus a million nuggets in the time that I've spent with you today. Guys, John is literally the best in the business. Take what he says and run with it, because he walks the walk and talks the talk. So John, thank you so much for being on Grab Your Keys today.
Thanks. I'm glad I finally got here, Sue. Thanks.
I'm glad too. So everyone, grab your keys, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.